I'd like to call to order the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors AM meeting this Thursday, December 4th, 2025 at 9 a.m. I want to remind everybody that a recording device will be in use during the meeting. Let's open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment for agenda items. Rules for conduct of public meetings established by Resolution 2001-08 state that the time allocated to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Is there any public comment on agenda items?
On agenda items?
Pardon me?
Agenda.
Agenda. Yeah, you're going to be at the end of the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I am on the agenda. Our application is, unless you're going to provide me an opportunity during our agenda item to speak, I don't need to speak now.
So you want to make a comment?
Well, I am the applicant for one of your agenda items, so I didn't want it. Hopefully we'll be provided with an opportunity to speak when we reach that agenda item, but if not, I can speak now.
No, you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
All right, minutes of previous meetings. I have a motion to approve the November 20th, 2025 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the November 20, 2025 Board of Supervising.
I second it. Any changes? Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer's report, authorization to pay bills and approve payroll. I'll make a motion that we approve the treasurer's report and authorize the staff to pay the bills and approve the payroll.
And I will second.
Any discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business application for 345-11B waiver on 2018 and 2020 Bondsville Road.
Chairman, thank you. Board members, Constantine Economides on behalf of my wife and I and our son and his wife that are building their homes on 2018 and 2020 Bondsville Road. I pretty much rise to answer any questions first and foremost that the board might have if you have any. What I would like to, absent any questions, I would like to specifically address our rebuttal to your engineer's report. I think the one thing that the engineer was unfortunately doing was conflating the two different reasons why a waiver can be granted. And we're focusing on a reason that we are not asking for. We're not trying to come up with an alternate way of dealing with the stormwater. We believe that we're very limited as to what we can do, and that is because of the physical conditions and the hardship that they present to us trying to build a home. And that's another issue I think I'd like to ask the board to focus on, is the agricultural nature of this property. The property by the township has already been designated as an agricultural security area. And the subdivision of this farm back in the 70s was approved by this township, with the flag lot running and the access lane running right through the pond that's there. So there's serious physical constraints on this property, the slopes. You're, I'm sure, familiar with all of them. We've laid them all out, but the agricultural aspect of it just exacerbates those physical conditions. There's no way really for us to continue farming it, which we have every intention of doing. It's the reason we bought this 10-acre parcel was, one, it's already a farm. The only thing happening on that parcel right now is farming. The code permits a farm to have a residence on it. In fact, a second residence, a tenement house, as long as that tenement house meets the subdivision requirements of the township. And it does. There are currently subdivided lots there, two just separate lots, and we're building the homes on those separate lots. So the idea that the access lane isn't an agricultural activity, I think, flies in the face of the township's designation of these two parcels as secure areas under the Act, the Agricultural Security Act, and that Act provides additional protection to properties like this from ordinances that would inhibit the farming of that land. And obviously, without that access lane, the properties are landlocked. But the reason for our waiver was for the hardships. We're not asking for a determination on the farm lane. I didn't bring that up until your engineer did in their review letter. But the hardship is what needs to be focused on here. And the hardship results in the magnitude of the stormwater retention that we would have to implement. It's over 4,000 tons of stone would need to be brought in there. Like I stated quickly at the last meeting, that would be 2 football sizes lengths of stone, 20 feet wide, more than 4 feet deep. It's an extremely large amount of stone and cost for a residential development that we're trying to build our own homes. We're not trying to flip this property. We're building this to live on it. A developer could probably, with cluster development, put more homes there, clearly, but that isn't what we're seeking to do. So with that's the reason we're asking for the waivers, the hardship that the physical conditions are presenting that result in the magnitude of the stormwater that would be necessary and the significant cost that would be imposed on just 2 homes. So if the board has any questions, that's the essence of our presentation.
Has anything changed to have the engineer issue an additional letter?
No, I'm only aware of the single letter from the engineer. At the last presentation before the Board of Supervisors, on reviewing the particulars of our stormwater chapter 345 subsection 11B, there was a reference to the recommendation of an engineer. So the decision on the waiver that's permitted in this section was tabled pending a letter from an engineer. I'm aware of one letter, and that letter contained language recommending that the board not grant the waiver. Do you have anything to add to my summary on that history, Mr. Solicitor?
I do not. Last time it came before the board, as the manager indicated, we did not have a letter from Cedarville Engineering. We now have a letter, and Cedarville cannot recommend the waiver.
And what is their reason?
Waivers.
I have not.
I wouldn't want to.
You're not an engineer.
But I would say it seemed to me that the concerns are the potential adverse effects on the existing pond and adjacent properties by stormwater runoff.
Mr. Chairman, I can, if I may, address that. To specifically address your stormwater engineer's letter, again, they were focusing on whether or not there's an alternative to do stormwater on that property, and weren't addressing at all.
That's what I thought.
They're not addressing our basis, which is the hardship. They didn't. In fact, they also mentioned the fact that the county has to prove this according to the waiver ordinance that the township has, and the county essentially has. Your stormwater engineer didn't even reference a review letter that the county has already issued, and they're not requiring any stormwater for the farmland that we're asking a waiver for.
I think in fairness, my understanding is when the county conservation district issued that opinion, they made the assumption that there was an existing farm lane on the property. Our zoning officer has determined that there is not an existing farm lane on the property. So I'm not sure that the conservation district's opinion carries much weight. And I do tend to agree with the applicant that Section 345-111B seems to have 2 standards, the first being more or less an undue hardship standards, but that standard still requires a determination that it will not be contrary to the public interest and that the purpose and intent of this chapter is observed. And I think Cedarville cannot give you that opinion.
Right, Cedarville's kind of stuck.
That's yes.
And that's why I think it's inappropriate for them to even say that they don't recommend approval.
So I understand, and I remember the presentation last month, and I remember a couple alternatives were put in there, but nobody seems to have commented on the alternatives other than you.
And I think that's a point well taken, that I don't know that Cedarville really analyzed the system, so to speak, that the applicant is proposing. And I think part of that is because they didn't have any
Hard data.
correct
Right, I
to
understand.
determine whether the system will work or whether it might have an adverse impact on adjacent properties, the pond on this property and the public streets.
But you're building a single-family home,
On
right?
each lot, correct.
Two?
We're building one home on each lot. That's
Only
all
one
this-
home affects this stormwater.
No, there's going to be two homes. They're both related to this farm.
Okay, so,
There's two
but
separate.
it's not a
homes.
development.
It's not a development. There could be more, there absolutely could be more. With cluster development, you could put well more than two homes there. We have no intention of doing that. We're trying to build homes that we want to live in.
Well,
And I think, as respectfully with Cedar, actually, with respect to what the county did, the county's well aware of the farm lane and the township's position. And there was a meeting, in-person meeting in September on the waiver issue. We had already filed our waiver application when that meeting took place. All of the representatives, all of your engineers from the township were there, and the county representatives were there. And they were specifically asked, the township's waiver requirement needs approval from the county. What's the county's position? And their position stated at that meeting was, we're not requiring anything for this farmland. We thought we'd get more pushback from the county than we are receiving from the township, to be perfectly honest with you. And the county, when they stated that they're not requiring anything for the farmland, they referenced a frequently asked question section that deals with agricultural exemptions from the Clean Water Act, and farmlands are exempt by federal law from these type of requirements. So for the township now to try to impose it and then take the opposite position, and they can do that. There's nothing wrong with, and we're not, your solicitor, is absolutely correct. We cannot, your board cannot override what your zoning officer has already deemed with respect to that farmland. But you can take a different position. You don't have to agree with your zoning officer. You can't reverse her decision. If you feel, and I don't think we need to reach that issue. In fact, I know we don't. The issue here today is, does this particular property have peculiar aspects, physical aspects to it that would warrant a waiver, and what it's imposing on the applicant to try to build these homes? Your Cedarville simply said it's feasible to put in a stormwater system. Of course it is, if you disregard cost and what it's doing to the land. The amount of space that those seepage pits are going to take away from the farmability.
I'm more concerned about the disturbance of the land. I mean, you're talking several acres.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be several acres, but it's a huge amount of stone. It's going to need. It's 2 football fields length. It would be 2 football lengths wide. If you combine all those stormwater pits, that's how much space they would take up, and it would be over 4,000 tons of stone. It's $155,000 just in stone.
What's the remind me again what the farming purpose would be?
It's currently farmed now. It's harvested twice a year. It's a feed plot. It's the hay on it is harvested twice a year. It has been for well over 100 years.
So like Mr. Weaver comes and
Exactly. Gil Weaver,
So it's hay. It's not row crops.
It's not. No, I think there used to be livestock here
okay.
50 or 70 years ago. There were definitely cows at some point. You can see them on some of the aerial photographs. Sheep at some point is what we've been told about the sheep. And their residents are aware of the Kesslers boarding horses and accessing the farm, exactly where we're accessing the farm from.
And how many acres are we talking about for the parcel?
The parcels together are 10 acres. Each lot is 5 acres.
So I looked at your.
Is this behind the old Kessler house?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. This is the 10 acres behind it, correct.
Okay.
Last time you were in, I was jogging notes in my. I remember thinking to myself, you had talked about the stormwater hitting that roadway and shedding off, I believe, correct?
Correct. We don't intend to dig it down. We're going to build it up 8 inches. It's not going to be significant.
So my thought at the time was, why not dry basin on both sides with a culvert underneath to catch it on both sides, rather than just shedding it off to the far side? And I'm not an engineer by any stretch of imagination, but common sense tells me that shedding off of a gravel driveway could be a problem and wash out stone into other neighboring properties. Have you given that any thought?
Well, building it up, actually, it was Cedarville that recommended during one of our first meetings over the summer about doing a like a basin, a bioswale, a natural bioswale, and that's what building up the road. We wanted to try to accommodate Cedarville's recommendation, was build a bioswale along the northern edge, the upslope edge of that drive to just hold the water back and slow it down. And that's what raising it would do. Trying to concentrate it, I think, it's just it's infeasible.
But you're going to have a gravel driveway, correct?
Correct.
So isn't that going to push gravel off of the driveway with a significant rainstorm?
It hasn't. It's been there since June. I know there were some comments about the weather. June and July, in fact, I think August as well, I've checked the weather records. Things have been dry since September and October. But over the summer, June, July, and August were average rain months. In fact, we had some significant events here in East Brandywine in July where there was flooding in Guthrie'sville, and there were no problems on that property. And you have an approval letter. The property owner to the south of us that has he almost spans the entire length of our southern border, which is 1,300 feet, a quarter of a mile is the access lane. And he's seen our drawings. We've discussed it with him. He was at a meeting that we were before the Planning Commission with respect to the slopes on our property, and that resident has issued a written letter approving of our plan. He has no objections. The Levinsons are here. They own the barn and the farmhouse. They have no objection. We've met with every neighbor to the south and across the street from us, and they're all in favor of what we're doing because we're only building 2 homes. They're all aware that somebody was suggesting putting more homes back there. They're tickled pink that we're only putting the 2. So there really is no issue of this. And like I said, the gravel, we merely gravelled what was already there. There's compacted soil. That property has been accessed along that farm lane for well over 100 years. If you drive a tractor on that parcel, it is sloped. And the only way you're going to get without risking tipping some type of large tractor is running along exactly what we followed, which is the compacted soil that Gil Weaver he himself has been doing for well over 25 years. So we haven't reinvented the wheel on that parcel. It's the only way of accessing the back of the lot through the cutout that's been on Bondsville Road at the southern end of that farm for as long as anyone can remember in the area.
Each lot's approximately 5 acres.
Exactly 5 acres.
I remember the property, I walked it with the Open Space Committee. And I think the municipal authority looked at it at one time, too. My inclination is to grant the waiver. I'm not, this is such a gray area and it's such a back and forth. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer until time tells you it was a right or a wrong answer. And I hate to, that property should only have 2 homes on it, not a development. So I hate to interfere with a property owner having full use and enjoyment of his property. So I would.
Yeah, and I before we continue, I would agree. However, as I said earlier, I don't think your current plan is the end all be all. And I don't know if that alternative dry bed storage on both sides with culvert under the road will help or hurt. But I don't think that it should be overlooked right now that this could possibly. Everybody's fine with it until they're not, right? The neighbors. And we had that situation, and I believe it was Hideaway Farms with the pool. Everyone was okay with it until all of a sudden there started being drainage issues with the neighbors, and then they were here. So there is some accountability on our part, and if an engineer says no, and we say yes, then the buck stops here.
Right. Well, like I said, this is only a 10-foot wide access path. So it is not, it's not as if we're building some type of large structure like a pool or a building that's 40 by 40 that would have significant runoff. I mean, that's dispersed along a quarter-mile length of property. The impact isn't that large. And our waiver request, we've agreed to do a third seepage pit. We are doing more than just building up the road to try to slow that water down. And again, I can assure you that water is not an issue. All we've done is gravel it. There's only a couple of inches of stone along that entire length right now, and none of it is washed south from the upslope down to the south slope since June. and we've had significant rain events, so I can assure you that has happened. But we are proposing, because I think it does make sense, to put a rather large seepage pit at the right along Bondsville Road, the lowest point of the farm, to help deal with some of the water that's going to be directed out into the storm drain that's out there, the PennDOT storm drain that's just south of our property. So we are taking additional measures than what we originally were proposing, which was just 2 seepage pits for each house. In addition, our waiver request is adding a third at the entrance road, significant size, 35 by 25, I believe, and 4 or 5 feet deep. So that will also be able to hold a considerable amount of water.
But none of this has been put on paper and reviewed by the engineer.
They have.
But the engineer's probably not going to reverse their original conclusion, are they?
Well, I don't know that Cedarville has the concept that Kyle was suggesting doesn't exist.
It's up here.
Right,
So,
because it hasn't been designed.
right, so Cedarville hasn't even considered that.
But would they consider it?
Well, I don't know, if you asked them to, they would. Now, what concerns me.
But they're not independent because they've already rejected it.
But they haven't seen any alternative concepts. You know, what concerns me are statements like this in their letter that say granting the waiver will likely increase runoff volume and rates to the existing pond due to the increase in impervious cover created by the farm lane. And there are several statements like that in their letter.
But how do you create impervious surface with farmland?
Well, because we have a dispute as to whether the farm lane exists or it doesn't exist. There are aerial photographs that show no evidence of a farm lane being here, and I'm not calling the applicant a liar.
Respectfully disagree, but
We have a dispute over that fact. So and regardless whether it exists or not,
right.
Cedarville says that there's going to be additional volume and rate of runoff into the pond and potentially onto adjacent properties. And it's really the board's decision. But as Kyle said, our experience tells us that later on, someone's going to come in and say, my property's flooded.
Well,
I agree with Kyle, but I also still say I don't want to interfere with a person in being able to.
The granting of a waiver, the granting of a waiver does not absolve us as property owners. We're still going to be responsible.
I thought
if
if
we're
you have a
impacting
runoff,
the
you
people-
got to fix it.
Exactly. If the circumstances change, your waiver does not. It doesn't exempt us from protecting our neighbors to the south of
Clause
us.
in there.
Well, I think that if the applicant is so confident that this is not going to be a problem, perhaps we should ask him to indemnify and hold the township harmless from any future liability and put that in a deed restrictions that recorded with the property.
I think I have no problem with that because that states the law. That we are responsible.
Right.
If I flood my neighbor to the south of me, I have to do something about it.
I'm for a waiver, but if Cedarville turns out to be right, we're not going to fix it. You got to fix it.
I agree.
So,
And I have no problem with your solicitor's suggestion because I think it clearly states what the law is of the land.
It would be a big deed.
Not that bad. We're wordy as lawyers, but we'll make it fit.
Well, we would create some separate covenant that would be recorded against both the lots.
I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
And that's not the whole deal. I mean, it's a general concept.
Of course,
Right.
of course, Mr. Rusty. I
You
understand.
have to
No, but
work
that's
out
where
the
I was
details.
that's where I was wandering to.
and I would still like to entertain that dry bed storage on both sides of the road with the culvert underneath, because I cannot see any harm in that. You're catching water, you know, I don't even know the length right now, but I'm just guessing someplace around maybe 200 or 300 feet on each side with a single culvert. And if water fills the one side and it goes to the next side without washing that driveway out. And I'm not an engineer, but it only makes sense that you're catching something more than you are currently right now.
I respect. We'll commit to trying to work that out with your engineers. I think the clearest thing, because your engineers are probably. I don't want to keep running into your engineers every time we want to put a shed up.
But keep in
the
mind,
future either.
engineers are engineers. Yours will say differently, and I don't put stock in any engineer 100%. So I'm not saying that ours is right and yours is wrong. It could be the opposite. You know what I mean? But I think that a little bit more research. So for me, I would be okay with the exception of the waiver based on the accountability falling off of the shoulders of the township, no matter what.
Agreed.
And that we will continue to explore the option of the dry bed dry bed storage on both sides with a culvert in between.
It would essentially be a swell. Bioswell is exactly what Cedarville had suggested. That's what we were proposing with the building up of the road. That would create a bioswell on the upslope side of the property. The reason I was proposing doing it on one side, for snow removal, if you put a slope on top of that road, just plowing snow on it's going to be a little more tricky.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it has to
way.
be right
That's
up
the only
against the
reason.
roadway either. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Understood.
So
But I would appreciate the waiver being clean. We'll commit to trying to work with your engineers. We just don't want to have a hammer drop down by your engineers every time we make a move as a result of this waiver. But we absolutely agree with your solicitor that we have no problem indemnifying the township with respect to this farm lane waiver that we specifically asked for with an additional seepage pit that we're also proposing.
And in addition, I think, again, we need a clean sign off from the neighbors impacted on all sides, downhill, so to speak. And then lastly, with the agreed add-on of Bondsville Road that you had talked about, doing the extra work on that as well.
Correct. We're going to put a seepage pit at the end. Is that what you're referring to? Correct. Yes. Yeah, we've committed to that in our waiver request. That is part of the request.
So it's premature to waive it right now, or?
Well, so here's
because
my
they
other
have to work out the wording.
Here's my other thought. I mean, we do have one more township meeting in 3 weeks. Or 2 weeks rather. I don't think it's unreasonable to get some of this hammered out in the next 2 weeks. And you know our stance right now. Nothing, in my opinion, is changing. And if I understand you want a clean waiver, but that's the only way to get it clean is to agree to those two or three items by 2 weeks.
Yeah, the only thing, we're already agreeing to do the extra seepage pit at the entrance. The indemnification, I have no problem with doing that. The third was approval from the neighbors, you were saying? Which you already have one letter of.
Right, but again, like I said to you before, you're always good until you're not, and that's when those neighbors come in and say, I wasn't aware of this. And we do the same thing when we're holding hearings regarding neighboring properties. They're invited to the meeting so that if it impacts them.
I have no problem I don't anticipate that being an issue. If you grant the waiver today on the condition that we get the signed letter.
No comfortable granting
No
waiver until
problem.
we have.
We'll go to those neighbors.
I'm totally comfortable with putting you on the agenda if you want.
Right.
I'm not going to be here, but my.
Time to work that out?
I'll have to. I mean, what I would prefer, I would prefer that we have everything in order before you take action.
It's going to be a little bit of a rush job, but I have no problem.
No, that's not. Well, the letters I think are the only thing the other thing you need in the indemnification language.
And adding
make
in
sure.
there your suggestion of the additional basin on Bondsville and on both sides of the road, if Cedarville deems that necessary. Again, Cedarville knows right now that we're in a public meeting right now. They understand our thoughts. I'm sure that they'll work with you to figure out that dry storage on both sides.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to come to an agreement with Cedarville as to what it's going to.
Well,
what it's
but at least
going to be
it's
exact.
something that could be designed quickly and agreed. It's not going to hurt. It would only
No,
help.
I couldn't. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right, we'll be back. I personally won't be able to be here. I'm a solicitor for a zoning board that meets, unfortunately, the same night you meet on your Thursday night. But my son will be here as an attorney as well, so I mean, not that that's necessary.
Well, hopefully we have everything worked out.
Exactly, it'll be an issue. We will. Thank you
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, sir.
New business. Contract for the new police chief, Mr. Revin.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, and those members of the board present. This morning, I'm pleased to announce that the terms of a contract between the township and Deputy Chief Yankanich, who will serve as the township's chief of police beginning in January of 2026, have been agreed to by both parties. While the ceremonial changing of the guard will occur next month, this morning I respectfully ask that the board take action to adopt the contract as required by the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. This action may take the form of a motion. I would, please.
Luke said the action may be taken in the form of a motion, so I move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the contract between East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors and Jeffrey Yakonovich, Chief of Police, to be effective in January 2026.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, there it is. You can't change your mind.
Subdivision, zoning, and applications. I see there's none on the agenda. Ordinances and resolutions for consideration. We have Resolution 16 of 2025 to establish the tax rate for refuse, fire services, and recycling. Mr. Reddy.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This morning on your agenda, there are two resolutions, both related to the budget process. The budget process in East Brandywine Township begins in July, where the Budget Committee makes a series of meetings with department heads, committees, and staff to compile a budget for your consideration. That budget is presented to you in a draft form at your first meeting in November. In your second meeting in November, the board took action to authorize staff to advertise that draft preliminary budget for public comment. That has been complete. You may review the draft budget on ebrandywine.org. This morning there are two actions related to that draft budget. The first of which, Resolution 16 of 2025, would establish the tax rate for the real estate tax, as well as the fire services tax and the fees for recycling and trash. The resolution contains no increases for both the millage for general purposes and for fire services. The resolution does include an increase for the trash and recycling fee. The total annual fee increase for the combination of those two fees is $15 per household.
Per year.
Per year. Yes, so a dollar a month increase. At this time, I'd respectfully ask the board to adopt Resolution 16 of 2025, and I'm available if you have any questions about the contents thereof.
I'll make a motion to approve the Resolution 16 of 2025 establishing the tax rate for the refuse, fire services, and recycling.
I'll second it, and I'll make a comment before we vote on it. The reason we had to even raise it $15 is contractual with our hauler. So, not something we're padding anything with. It's part of the increased cost. And $1.25 a month is a pretty small increase from the hauler. Any other comments?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution 17 of 2025 authorizing and directing transfer of unencumbered funds. Revenue.
Yeah, so the second action that needs to be done before January is to make a transfer from the general fund to the capital fund. The second-class township code prohibits such transfers in the first portion of each new calendar year. This resolution, let's just say the account balances in both the general fund and the capital fund are wholly unencumbered. They can be used for any purpose that the township can spend money on. The transfer is an administrative segregation of funds, and that the recommended transfer represents both planned transfers for future capital improvements and also the fruits of our labor in being good stewards of taxpayer money and spending less than allocated expenditures. So at this time, I respectfully ask that the board adopt Resolution 17 of 2025 to transfer funds from the general fund to the capital fund.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 17 of 2025 authorizing and directing transfer of unencumbered funds.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we move on to public comment on non-agenda items. If you have a comment, please come up to the lectern up there and speak into the microphone and keep your voices up.
Okay. Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Grace Hall, and I'm a resident of the Villages at Timberlake, representing my neighbors and friends in Westlake, Brookside, and Lakeview Village. On December 2nd, I filed a civil rights complaint with the State Attorney General and the District 155 representative regarding the misuse of the East Brandywine Police Department to enforce discriminatory housing rules. I was advised to also bring this matter to you as you have oversight of our police resources. The Lakeview Village HOA, a subdivision of our master planned community, is instructing residents to call EBPD to report children for trespassing on open ground, not for vandalism or crime, but sledding, playing, bike riding, and even trick-or-treating. This is an attempt to codify a policy to use our taxpayer-funded police officers as private security guards to enforce a members-only rule against children. This is a misappropriation of public resources and takes officers away from legitimate public safety duties to investigate inherent child activities. First, in September, an 11-year-old resident was charged for trespassing while riding his bike in a field within our master planned community with undelineated boundaries. I didn't even realize the boundary was there. How could an 11-year-old? The minor was fingerprinted and forced to check in with a probation officer weekly. Second, on October 31st, that's right, Halloween, an officer threatened a visiting child with criminal trespassing charges while trick-or-treating. The parents were informed the child had done nothing wrong, but was being lumped in or profiled with a group of other children who had been warned a couple years prior. And then finally, this Monday, on December 1st, the Lakeview HOA distributed a letter stating that Lakeview residents are to notify the East Brandywine Township Police immediately if children are seen sledding on the hill. All of these actions is why I filed the complaint. These actions specifically target familial status, a protected class under the Fair Housing Act. If the township allows EBPD to be weaponized against us, they risk becoming a party to a federal civil rights violation. So we as residents of the Villages at Timberlake are asking the Board of Supervisors to take one specific action today. And with all due respect, sir, it sounds like you were just sworn in today. Congratulations. But please instruct the police chief to suspend the issuance of criminal trespass warnings against minors for non-criminal civil disputes within the Timberlake development while the Attorney General reviews this complaint. Our children should not be afraid of the police, and our police should not be used as pawns in what we see as a neighborhood power trip. And frankly, I'm not even so clear as to how much the police are aware of this that's going on with this Lakeview HOA, but you have our written statement with at least 20 signatures from our neighborhoods and friends. I was able to gather those signatures very quickly, beginning at 3:30 yesterday afternoon, and then closed the DocuSign at about 11 p.m. last night. I really appreciate your time and attention to this matter before it escalates further.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I was going to ask for the solicitors.
This matter, as far as I know, came to the attention of the township late yesterday afternoon and now this morning. And since apparently some of the property owners have chosen to file a complaint with the Pennsylvania Attorney General, I would suggest to the board that we shouldn't make any comment at this time and certainly not take any action on Ms. Hall's request at this time. And I would ask, and I don't know that the police department has really looked into this yet, and I would ask that the police department not make any comment on this. Thank you.
Any other public comment for non-agenda items? All right, under notices, there was an executive session held on November 20th for quasi-judicial deliberations. There will also be a foundation meeting following this session. So there will be an executive session following the meeting, discuss real estate matters. I imagine the meeting is the foundation meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, the You're scheduled this morning to make a decision on the Three Creeks conditional use application. That's technically part of your public agenda, so
Okay.
I would do that before we adjourn. We are going to transcribe the decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we can just take a break to get the court reporter to set up, if that's okay.
Sure. So we'll take how long is it going to take you? No time at all. All right.
Ready?
Yes.
This matter concerns the conditional use application of Three Creeks LLC. The applicant filed a conditional use application for a property located at 2069 Bondsville Road in the township. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval for a proposed 21-unit townhouse traditional neighborhood development. Hearings on this matter were conducted on several dates over the past year. In fact, in the last year and the year before. The last hearing was on October 21st of this year. At that time, the evidentiary record was closed. Counsel for both the applicant and counsel for the township administration were invited to submit proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law and legal argument to the board. The board did receive a submission from Mr. Foley on behalf of the township administration. As I indicated, the board announced at the close of the hearing that it would make a decision on the application this morning, being December 4th, 2025. The board has deliberated in private on the application as it's permitted to do so. Based on those deliberations, I prepared a decision in order that has the effect of denying the application. The draft decision in order has been previously circulated to the board for review and comment. Based on that draft decision in order, I would ask the board to entertain a motion to deny the conditional use application of Three Creeks LLC and adopt the decision in order before the board this morning.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And
you should ask for any public comment before,
for the motion,
once somebody makes that motion on the motion.
I'm sorry, after
After the motion is made, you should ask if there's any public comment on the motion.
All right. I'll make a motion to deny the conditional use hearing for,
Actually, motion to deny the conditional use application of Three Creeks LLC and adopt the decision order that's before the board this morning.
that's my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
I believe you would ask for comments first.
Well, first there has to be a motion on the
There has to
floor,
be a
so there
second.
should be a second.
Yeah, I second.
Okay, comments?
I understand.
You have to up to the left.
And please identify yourself again. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, good morning. My name is Grace Hall. I'm just returning to the podium here. I understand we don't want to make a comment. I want time to digest the stories that I laid out today, but I did have
I'm
received.
sorry, this is a public comment on the motion
Yeah.
that's currently pending before the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there public comment on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of denying or adopting the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Now, you have something else to speak on, or?
I'm not sure that we were clear on our next steps here. I understand there's no comment on the ground, but
Can you wait a second, please?
okay.
I mean, it's up to the discretion
I
of the chair.
know.
We adjourned that meeting, that's what I'm.
I know.
But for the benefit of our reporter, should we
Yeah,
the record?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay.
Now, just stay there. This is all technical stuff.
I see.
We closed
A
the public
conditional
meeting.
use hearing is
Oh,
a
I see.
semi-judicial
Okay,
hearing.
wonderful.
That's why we have a court report.
Well, we didn't adjourn the public meeting.
When we have not adjourned the public meeting.
We're just now going to have a conversation.
So what are you going to speak on? Something different?
No, the same. Just back to my original
All right, but you only
statement
have,
here.
you have a very short time, but I gave you extra time the first time.
Regarding my statement here, what are our next steps? I understand that supervisors don't want to make a comment today and they want time to digest it, but we do have signatures. We do have a series of events that are escalating further. Just some clarity on next steps would be wonderful, because I was directed to come here. So this sort of is my next stop. And
I'm not a lawyer, so I'll let our.
Yeah, at this point, I frankly don't know what the next steps
Right.
are. I mean, you filed a complaint, or somebody did, with the Pennsylvania Attorney General. I presume that the Pennsylvania Attorney General will contact the township. And once we get that contact, then we can decide what to do from there.
the state representative mentioned that I need to come here to talk about, so the Lakeview HOA issued a letter on Monday distributed to the residents, saying that the residents are to call the police on children who are sledding outside. So the reason why I'm here today is because the state representative said I need to come to the township and request that, with all due respect, that not happen, that the police not show up and give criminal charges to children who are sledding. And they have done that with bike riding and trick-or-treating. That's my question.
Mr. Chairman, without
Yes.
making regard, but as it relates to, without making comment, but as it relates to next steps, does the filing that you made create a record? Is there like a docket number? Is there some way that the township can see the complaint
Sure.
that you filed?
Sure.
I would be interested in seeing the document.
Okay, so that's a
And I don't
next
know
step.
that that's something that our solicitor would have access to through a docket system. So as part of any fact-finding operation, I would be interested in seeing that record.
Okay, great.
Please do share.
That's our next step then. Oh,
Yeah, well, we're in about one business hour of time to prepare for this, and as you heard, the solicitor's recommendation is that we not make comment on the circumstances or or any part of the case until we can understand everything that's going on. So I would like to see, in addition, I appreciate the petition. I would also like to see the filing with the Attorney General's office.
makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other public comment? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.